Now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The Run, the Manny Wilson podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. What's up, everybody? Hey, we got a great episode for you today, but you know, man, I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like, you dislike, shoot us a call and I'll play your take back live on air, 219-413-9405. Look, the national championship is set. We already know now. We have University of Michigan versus University of Washington. Super excited about it. And I'm going to touch on all of that stuff in just a quick second. But let's do a quick little recap because there was a lot of games happening this past weekend going into the new year. And it was some great football, quite honestly. So starting off with Alabama and Michigan, I'm going to just start here because this was the first game. This was the early on game. And it was pretty good. This was the Rose Bowl. As you know by now, Michigan won 27-20, and congrats to Michigan. Kudos to them. It was definitely well earned. I thought it was a great game. They stood tall when they needed to. They made a lot of different adjustments, but I was very impressed on both sides, truth be told. It was a great coached game as well, but obviously not to discredit Michigan. We know Bama wasn't supposed to be there. Let's just keep it a buck. I'm not going to elaborate on it too much, but Bama, they struggled early on. If you would have told somebody the early stages of the season that, hey, Alabama's going to go and be ranked top 4 and play Michigan in the Rose Bowl, somebody would have laughed at you. We've known for some time now they had a lot of quarterback issues. He's not that guy. Milroe, oh my gosh, bruh, kind of terrible. I ain't gonna lie. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up hitting the portal or Alabama bring in another quarterback to play for them because he is not that guy at quarterback. And this is what concerns me about Michigan, which I'll touch on a little bit later, is that even though Alabama doesn't have a powerhouse of an offense, they still kind of struggled to stop that offense. Michigan struggled to stop that offense. They did, kudos to them, but ultimately, it was still a struggle, and I don't want to, discredit anybody here because it was a great game. Both of these teams were well balanced, but I thought Michigan they should have really, really buckled down and locked that offense up, which they did at one point. It was a defensive game, but truth be told, they probably should have won, and the game shouldn't have been as close. But kudos to Bama for really holding it down. It was a good game. I'm glad to see it, but we know Bama wasn't supposed to be there from this time on, but I'm glad they did. So I was happy, they at least made it a good season. And I think the people, the committee, they did a great job. They did a great job at picking this and picking these different matchups. But, there was another game going on. This game happened too late. I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all, bro. This game between Washington and Texas was just too damn late, bro. I don't know why. The game was coming on so late. I think it was 7:45. They didn't kick off until 8 p.m. This is Central Standard Time, so Eastern Standard Time, that's starting at 9 p.m. Bruh, I didn't make it all the way through. I had to go back, watch the highlights, watch the recap, but I caught a little bit of it up into the third quarter. I tried to hang in through halftime, but I'm like, bro, when did halftime get this long? When did they start making an hour-long halftime? Like, bro, this was not it. I swear, halftime was just the longest I've ever seen in any game. So that was wild, but I noticed it was a lot of offense. We go from Alabama and Michigan, which was a completely defensive game, and a little bit of offense versus Washington and Texas, where it was a loaded offensive game. Both teams, a lot of offense, very little defense. And this was cool. From the time I did watch it, in the recap that I did watch, I faded around the third quarter is when I was like, look, bro, I ain't gonna make it. I gotta work early in the morning. we not doing this. We not staying up all night to watch this damn game. I love football. I love all these sports. I love talking about it, but I can't get behind that, bro. I gotta protect my own mental health at some point. But look, that's besides the point. Texas and Washington, a lot of offense. Penix Jr., solidify himself as an elite quarterback that is for sure going to the league. He already did that in the regular season, but Washington's quarterback, Penix Jr., is an elite guy. This man put the ball in places where he wanted to be exact. The perfect placement for the ball throughout the game. Was threading the needle a lot, slinging a rock, and man, it was entertaining from what I did watching. Obviously the highlights is the highlights, so it's always going to make things look fun. But again, man, I can only help but to say the committee really, really hit it off here. I'm not upset that they left Florida State out. I'm not upset they left Georgia out. I think they did a great job because nobody wanted to see Florida State without their star quarterback, who was a Heisman candidate. And Georgia, they did lose to Bama, so it's only right you put Bama in there if they lose to a team they were supposed to win. But other than that, I have more to touch on because Florida State, they got beat. They got spanked. Let's just cut to the chase. Georgia beat them 63-3. It was an absolute blowout. But the thing with Florida State, because I knew this was coming, they lost the record, or they broke a record. Both of these teams, Georgia and Florida State. This is the largest margin of victory in any bowl game. Again, 63-3. Georgia popped Florida State. But the thing about this game, and the thing that's interesting, is there were 29 scholarship players that sat out in this game, Florida State and Georgia, in the Orange Bowl, Orange Bowl, whatever the title was. This was a big bowl game that they had. It wasn't no trash bowl. It wasn't the Little Caesars Bowl. It wasn't the ice cream bowl. It wasn't the toilet paper bowl. This was the Capital One Orange Bowl, a huge bowl game. And Florida State had 29 scholarship players sitting out, and it wasn't due to injury. This is an issue. It's not a team move. While I understand for some people, which I'll get to in just a second, this is a whack move. It's a punk move. And I don't think it's good for football. I don't think it's good for bowl games when you got guys sitting out. And Florida State wasn't the only school that did this. You had Ohio State doing it. USC did it as well. So it was a lot of different schools that had these good bowl games, but they ended up sitting out anyway. And to me, immediately, I'm thinking, okay, well, if I'm a player, we go through all season, we're working hard, we're doing these things to really separate ourselves from other teams, to go far and go the distance at the end of the season to get a good bowl game. When you actually don't play, when you got guys talking about, no, I'm not going to play, to me, that's a punk move, bro. That's a real sucker move. The coaching staff should be pissed about that. The players who've been working hard all season should be pissed about that. And then honestly, bro, the opponents should be pissed about that, because if you're playing a team in a bowl game, you're expecting competition. You're expecting great ratings from the organization, from the school standpoint, you're expecting great ratings. And from a player standpoint, you're expecting good competition. It's a bowl game. It's not supposed to be a blowout. That's not fun, bro. Yeah, it's fun when you betting on these games and you hit your parlay because the spread hit, whatever, all of that stuff. That's cool. But when you're competing, you want to compete at the highest level. You don't want to just go in there, mollywop somebody, and know their best players aren't really playing, because at that point, it's not even a true test. So again, this is a sucker move, and I don't know if it was a direct retaliation of not being selected in the top 4, but to me, it was a sucker move. And if it wasn't, I understand. Because again, as I mentioned, I understand why some of these guys are sitting out. Some of these people are guaranteed NFL prospects. They're going to the NFL in a couple months. So I get it. You don't want to ruin your chances of getting injured playing in this bowl game that's not going to give you any money, not going to give you any sponsorships or anything like that. I understand that perspective. I understand the transfer portal people too. The guys who are sitting out because they want to go to another school. Clearly, you will not be able to go play at another school if you're hurt. That scholarship is going to be revoked. So I understand from that perspective as well. Both of those excuses are pretty weak to me. I still think, you should play, whatever the case is. Maybe it's a restriction. I don't know. Something's got to give. But ultimately, the bulk of the problem comes down to health here. About 80% of the collegiate athletes do not have anything that will reassure them financially or educationally if they get hurt. This is why you have guys sitting out. no insurance on their athletic scholarships and health. So you'll continue to see guys behave in this manner of sitting out and protecting themselves or trying to move around in the portal and protecting themselves if they don't have any insurance. Because it's silly if they play in a game and get hurt and take that risk. I understand that perspective. I wouldn't want my own kid doing it. If I had a kid, I wouldn't want my cousin, brother. I wouldn't want anyone that I love or care for to do that and take that risk if I know they have something in their future lining up to be well and benefiting them. It's silly. If I was a collegiate athlete and I know I can go to the NFL and make plenty of money, why the hell would I go take that risk and play in this last game that doesn't really matter, that does not gonna pay me if I know it can ruin my future? I'm not doing that. It's silly. And this is why I love NIL deals, because these NIL deals are getting people paid. Not everyone has one in the collegiate world or college athletes, but with these NIL deals, this is really helping a lot of people with security, because those guys who are staying in college, they're getting paid. So if you get hurt, you lose your athletic scholarship, whatever, you lose out on some money, at least you know you have your NIL deal to count back on, and it can somewhat help you out. But it's wild, man. And then for a viewer's aspect, this is getting sorry for bowl games. Who the hell wants to watch a bowl game when you know star players are not playing? I'm not watching it. Like the old Ohio State and Missouri, I didn't watch that shit, bro. It's not interesting. If Ohio State got all these people sitting out, I'm not going to watch it. Same with Florida State, going back to them. I'm not going to watch Florida State when they got all these people sitting out. Who cares? I know Georgia's going to win by 30 points. Damn it, they won by 60. That is crazy. I never even addressed that. They won by 60 points. Do you know how large of a margin that is? 60 points? Bro, even when you joke around and say, I'm about to beat you by 30, you don't go to that drastic a measure of saying 60 points. I'm from a family that talk a lot of trash with cousins, brothers. We talk a lot of trash to each other when we play sports, whether it's the video game or we going outside to play one-on-one and catch what, it doesn't matter. We talk a lot of trash and we have fun doing it. But bro, I have never, ever, ever, ever in my lifetime heard anybody say, we gonna beat you by 60 in any sport. So for Florida State to get beat by 60 is just absolutely ridiculous, bro. And ultimately, I'm going to leave it at this, bro. The powerhouses that's in the game right now, they got to do better. And I don't think this is going to get any better until the NCAA starts to give these guys insurance for their health and for their financial and also educational security, because they're going to have to monitor it in some way. But without insurance, these guys are not going to want to take that risk. And it's that simple. Now, I do have another audio cut here. Here's what we'll do. We'll leave out with Kirby Smart. This is Georgia's head coach. He had some comments to say on the situation after Florida State was sitting out all of their guys. We'll go ahead and pull up this audio and I'll play it. But you know how they do when I pull up, as soon as I actually try and play the audio, that's when the advertisement wants to run. But look, wait just 1 second. The advertisement is almost done. I can't skip it either. This is some bull crap. But look, here it is. All right, here's the audio cut. Kirby Smart.
People need to see what happened tonight, and they need to fix this. It needs to be fixed. It's very unfortunate that they, who has a good football team and a good football program, are in the position they're in. And everybody can say it's their fault and it's their own problem. All right? And everybody can say that we had our guys and they didn't have their guys. I can listen to all that. But college football has got to decide what they want. And I know things are changing. And I think things are going to change next year. And you know what? There's going to still be bowl games outside of those. People got to decide what they want and what they really want to get out of it. Because it's really unfortunate for those kids on that sideline that had to play in that game that didn't have their full arsenal. And it affected the game 100%.
Well, there you have it. It was 60-point deficit, man. Georgia won by 60 points, which is ridiculous. Look, but we got a preview of the national championship coming up in just a sec. We don't have any news or any voicemails as well. This is a quicker episode. I know it is. But look, stay tuned. We got that matchup coming up between Michigan and Washington. So we're going to take a quick break. It's halftime. Let's do it. All right, now the national championship game is set. The University of Michigan Wolverines will take on the Washington Huskies on January 8th. That is a Saturday, and this is a beautiful matchup ahead of us. Honestly, bro, this is the matchup that everyone should have wanted. These two teams were indubitably in the playoffs no matter what. They were undefeated. They took care of business in the big games that they had. There was no confrontation about if Washington should be in the top four or if Michigan should be in the top four. So I'm glad that we actually got this matchup. And the thing I'm mostly anticipating right here is a good defense versus a great offense in Washington. So as we know, Michigan, they have a leading defense in the NCAA. Although it didn't look like it against Bama at every possession, they are still the best defense in the NCAA, averaging 10 points defensively, number 2 in yards allowed, man. And the only thing here with Michigan that scares me is their offense is kind of slept on. You know, people get so caught up in, oh, their defense is good, but Michigan is a very well-balanced team right here. So they're well coached. There's a lot of adjustments that I've seen them make, especially in that previous game against Bama, as I mentioned. They can pass, they can run offensively, and they're pretty creative as well. It was a little sloppy last game from what I've seen on the offensive end and the trick plays and all of these forward back pitches and stuff like that. But ultimately, they have that creativity if they need to go for it on 3rd and short or 4th and goal or whatever the case is. But ultimately, this team, they're very well balanced. But I will say, Washington, they look good offensively. And because Michigan struggled against Bama, who's not very good offensively, I do think they're going to have a tough time going against Washington, going against a quarterback who can really, really make things happen in Penix Jr. Because Michigan struggled against Bama with no quarterback, and now they have to go against a guy who's an elite quarterback in Washington. So Penix Jr., he is him at quarterback. So here's a couple things that need to happen. Not going to keep you too much longer, but obviously, the main thing for Michigan is they'll want to focus on Penix Jr. I think that defensive line and the linebackers, they have to have a big game in order to pull this game off and make history by winning the national championship. This, to me, is the main key for Michigan right here, is to put a lot of pressure on Penix Jr., put as much pressure as you can, and try to make him be uncomfortable. Even though the guy seems very, very comfortable in the pocket and outside of the pocket, you gotta put some sort of pressure on him, because if you let him sit back there, he's gonna dice you up and make all of these throws very, very accurately. So I would say try to make him somewhat uncomfortable by putting pressure on him. The defensive line and linebackers, this is going to be their time to shine this game. This is going to be the game where NFL prospects are looking and they're like, man, look at what this guy is doing against this double team, or look at what this linebacker is doing when he's rushing off the edge. Look at what this defensive tackle is doing. Look at all of these different things. So Michigan's D-line and linebackers have to show up big. For Washington, now, I would say for Washington, because their defense is not good, if their defense comes to play, even though I haven't seen it, I have no reason to believe that Washington's defense will step up. If Washington's defense steps up and actually make plays and locks in, it's going to be a long night for Michigan. And that's just, it's nothing else you can do about that, because their offense is already just amazing. And then on the defensive end, they struggle, but if they can pick that up, I would be very, very shocked, and it would be surprising to me to see Michigan still win that game, even if Washington's defense comes to play. I would be very shocked. So for Washington, obviously you want to play a lot more defense, but the main thing here is to stick to your strengths, which is on the offensive end. You want to strike early and as often as possible and take advantage of the opportunities that Michigan gives you, because you look at last game, against Bama, when Michigan played, there was a lot of dropped punts, there was a lot of fumbles, and there was those little issues of the missing of the field goals as well. So whenever those things happen, you have to take advantage of that if I'm Washington. So if Washington, they can lock in on defense and take advantage of the offensive opportunities they have, I think things can go right for them, and they maybe have a chance at winning this right here. Obviously, it's a fair shot because they have a good offense, but I'm not confident enough to say they will go on to win this game. But the last thing, whatever you do, if you're Washington, whatever you do, I don't care if you're turning it over or not, the last thing you want to do is do not let Michigan take an early lead, because this team is very, very well balanced, meaning if they get a lead on you and they run it up, if they're up 2 touchdowns, they know how to play defense. So they can prevent you from scoring as easily as you might have scored on other opponents, because this team really plays defense. And then that's another thing. Even if you do score, they can play offense so they can continue to score the ball. So you do not want to let Michigan take an early lead and continue to get hot. That's the main thing Washington cannot do. But as far as my prediction, because I've done a lot of talking here, I'm going to side with the University of Michigan. The Wolverines will take this dub here. I'm saying they're going to win this game, mainly because they're such a balanced team, whereas Washington, they're only elite on the offensive end. I haven't seen them well-rounded like I've seen Michigan, man. And I got to go with Michigan to win this game. Not just because I'm from Michigan, because believe it or not, I was rocking with Bama. I'm always going to rock with Bama, but I mean, I think Michigan can pull this off. I'm not putting money down, and I'm not advising anybody else to put money down. But if I had to, I think I will put my bread down on Michigan to win this ball game. So it'll be close. It'll be good. I'm anticipating a great game. This is a good offense versus a good defense. January 8th, we are looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. But until then, man, hey, if you heard something you agree with, you disagree with, you like, you dislike, go ahead, shoot us a call. 219-413-9405, and we'll play your take back on air. I will play your take back on air, and I'll give some context as well, even if it's related to this or related to something else you've seen on social media or our social media as well. So while I mentioned in my social media, go ahead, give me a follow at I am Manny Wilson. Follow the podcast as well at The Run Podcast on all platforms. But until then, we will be back later on this week. And so on and so on and so on.